But I tell you what, I'll go as far to say it. I'd rather have James McLean back than Tommy Watson.
Wow.
There's a couple of questions. Roger, pass me a tissue. I know I am looking nice today. Like. How's Mrs. Ted from Gary there? Mrs. Ted is very well. She's asleep and she's probably going to absolutely murder me because she works nights. What's the hang on? What's the access to EPL live matches like in Cyprus legally?
No comment.
Just got the pub.
So Tommy Watson, right? The question I'm going to ask you, Ted, is very simple. So why does Lebris continue to play him then?
I think we've got to at this moment in time. Well, we don't have to. To be honest, I would rather play Isidore on the wing and Mayenda up front. But I think honestly, Lebris is almost playing the other game to what Tommy Watson is. Like, right, let's not injure any of our players. Let's keep the guys who I've got in mind for the playoffs. Let's keep them fresh and let's just use him while we've got him. The playoffs are guaranteed now. It's going to take an awful lot for us to slip from fourth place into fifth. I don't think that'll happen. Truth be told, that result yesterday actually worked in our favour in a weird way because I'd rather play Bristol City twice than any of the other teams there. Because even with 10 men, there was times where we looked an awful lot better than what they did. So with 11 men, we beat them all day long, Steve. And right now, it's about rotating the team. It's about bedding people back in, like Lafay, for instance, who made his first start in a few months yesterday. Getting them back to full fitness. Let's not burn out Isidore. Let's not burn out Mayenda too much. Obviously, yeah, it's a little bit of a worry about getting into form. We've spoke about that the last couple of weeks. That's 2 defeats in a row now for us. So we need to turn that around. I think we've got a great opportunity to do that against Blackburn and then away at Oxford as well in the next 2 games. So I'm not so much worried about that. I think that's coming. I saw from the majority of players yesterday, I saw a bit more effort, a bit more front foot. There was players like Hjelde, who I thought had a very, very good game, who looked more solid, more in control of the game. So I think that's starting to turn a little bit. But yesterday, there's no excuse for laziness. Not when there's 3,500 people made the effort to get down there. They probably made more effort getting out of bed that morning than what Tommy Watson did in 90 minutes.
Teddy boy, can I ask, mate? Obviously, the result against Bristol City was an eye-opener going into the playoffs. For most fans that think Coventry and Bristol are going to join you in the playoffs, obviously, I'm hoping for a late run from a certain club. But look, the obviously Trihum getting a red card. Everyone's saying that was smart because now he gets a rest before going into the playoffs. But Bristol City and Sunderland fans on social media are at each other because obviously, like you just said, Sunderland are hoping that they could play Bristol City twice rather than Coventry City. Well, obviously the result against Coventry City was a 3-0. We've now seen you lose at home to Bristol City 2-1. The results going into the playoffs reminds me of Michael Carrick in his first season going into that playoff run. I mean, we came back from that international break and we were horrid. We could not win a game going into the playoffs, and then we played Coventry in the first playoffs and just continued that run. Is form starting to worry you? I mean, you've lost to Swansea 1-0. The Norwich game was a bit of a bore. Bristol City last night with a red card to Trihum won't affect his playoff chances. Coventry 3-0 in there as well, but with 2 good wins, obviously 1-0 against Millwall, 1-0 against West Brom, but you're not blowing teams away. For me, looking at your form, it's reminding me very, very much of Boro's form going into the playoffs of 2022-23. And is that starting to worry you?
It was, to be honest, right up until the first sort of 5 or 6 minutes of that game yesterday where we were very much on the front foot and we looked a bit more like ourselves again. There was a bit of a higher press, which I like to see from us. But that all goes to hell when Luke O'Nien can't defend for his life and ends up getting Trey Hume sent off, I suppose is the best way to put it. So there were signs there yesterday that things will turn around. That's the hope that kills you being a football fan. Of course it is. But I thought there were signs there that the effort was there. and there was a desire to get stuck in. Chris Mepham yesterday just was at everything. He was really riled for it, and I honestly think it's there's like I think the momentum will shift. We've got 3 games left. I think after the next game, if we don't see a result against Blackburn, and if we don't see some sort of performance out of that, then I'll be a little bit worried. But I just feel like we're starting to kind of build up to something. And getting those players back from injury, obviously Mundell will be fit for the playoffs, which we're told is a guarantee now, which is great because you just wouldn't have Tommy Watson anywhere near you in your first team squad at all.
Who thought it was a sending off then? I've got to be honest, on first view, when I didn't think it was a sending off.
I didn't think it was. I thought it was quite soft. I mean, we saw red cards all over the EFL yesterday, Teddy Boy. I'm not sure if you saw, but there was something like 6 or 7 red cards in all the games yesterday.
Our game was 9 against 12, mate.
Yeah, it was seriously, the referees needed to get their quota up yesterday in the EFL. It was crazy. But no, I didn't think it was a red card off first view. I thought it was quite harsh, especially so early in the game as well, that and it wasn't look, it again, we spoke about it last week, we speak about it again, and we're going to talk about it in the Middlesbrough game as well. The referees and in the EFL, it's up to them. We have no VAR, there's no backup. It is human error or what they see with their linesman on the side as well, which we can are costing vital points and millions of dollars worth is in chances for promotion and in relegation cases as well. So yeah, I didn't think it was a red card, but what surprised me more was how well Sunderland handled 3 at the back. I thought I thought they stepped up very, very well, but it was an interesting choice for me going up against Bristol City, leaving the likes of Bellingham on the bench, even Brown, I thought, Isidore coming off the bench, even Samed as well. I mean, I think that, Sunderland's bench yesterday was looking insanely strong. But you can flip the side and say Bristol's was as well. They left Mehmeti, who I think is one of the best players in the league, on his day on the bench.
Great.
Scott Twine came on as well, who's, obviously was the Burnley captain for a bit there as well. So it was an interesting battle. But, if you're going off momentum and stats and, you can't, when it comes to playoffs, I don't think it's going to matter for anything. But unfortunately, the 2 other teams in the playoffs at the moment, apart from you think Sheffield United, are Coventry and Bristol at the moment. And Sunderland in the past 3 matches have lost 3-0 to Coventry and now 2-1 to Bristol City. So Bristol City will be licking their chops, as will Coventry.
Right, what was your take on Boro's game then yesterday?
It was a good game, mate. It was a good game, my kid. It was ugly as hell. It was against the bottom of the league versus obviously a team not in form, obviously coming off the back of two bad losses, I would say, one against Millwall, obviously. And, look, it was something that Middlesbrough needed to turn the tide against. We needed to stay within touch. Bristol City were going to end up winning yesterday, as do Coventry. The gap could have opened up to 5 points for us to try and close down with 3 games remaining. And I honestly think that just would have been too large. Mathematically still, possible, but to keep it within that 3-point range, I think is more feasible, especially with us playing Coventry on the last day of the season. Now, ugly game, decided by a referee in the last minute as well. Not even the last minute, 92nd minute, with a push on Tommy Conway. It was hardly a push. He made the most of it, but there was a penalty. There was a penalty about 5 minutes before that with Morgan Whittaker getting his ankles tracked, and that wasn't given either. So I mean, there was shouts all over. There was Johnny Howson getting tackled on the wing, which wasn't even seen. He was left a bit rough and sore. Michael Carrick, I think, has been spoken about his tacticals and his substitutions. I think he got it right yesterday. It was quite interesting. We saw Johnny Howson moving to a right back position. The bloke can play anywhere. I swear to God, he's going to be our manager soon as well, just to complete the crescendo. In his 750th appearance as well is Captain Fantastic Johnny Howson. Moved to right back, bringing Dale Fry on as a centre back, and it just seemed to be a bit of a masterclass stroke. Johnny Howson was fantastic at the right back. Ugly game. Plymouth fighting for everything they can. Long way to travel for them as well, just to see a penalty go against them in the 92nd minute. But a game that Middlesbrough needed to win. In the EFL, you got chances that go against you and for you, especially with the refereeing. And this one might have been a bit of lady luck again, but we'll take it. And we needed the 3 points to stay in touch. I thought Middlesbrough defended quite well. Mark Travers has been an absolute revelation. Mark Travers could have saved Kim and Kanye's wedding. I'm telling you, he could have kept them together. Put him in Hollywood, and there's not many celebrity divorces because Travers is in there saving each and every one of them. And it was good to see the likes of Dale Fry and George Edmondson coming back for some fit centre backs if we are putting this promotion playoff. The big thing is Riley McGree, though. That was the word on everyone's lips before kickoff because he came back for 3 games, then played 15 minutes against Millwall, only to then get another knock in training to be absent from yesterday's team sheets. It was a shock to me as one of Riley McGree's lovers, best friends, best man to be, you would think, when he gets married, if he calls me up, and he wasn't there. He got another knock, and unfortunately it's something like, we did the math, it's something like 14 games now in 2 seasons. Now, he signed a new deal in the summer for an extended 4 years. That's this summer just gone. So you would think Middlesbrough aren't keen to lose any money interest on that. But I mean, come the summer, he's going to have some big questions of himself, whether he can live up to the standards of championship football. I mean, it's just, he's not playing enough football for Middlesbrough. And the question as well is that the frustrating thing is that when Australia call him up, he's usually fit and raring to go. And I think that people are starting to get sick of him, always being there on the international stage. I love him. I think he's the best player in the club when he's on form. If he can stay fit, he's honestly one of the best footballers in the league as well. We've seen that with goals from left, right, and centre. It's just about keeping his body fit and whether he can do that. Whether it's down to Michael Carrick's trainings. I mean, we saw last season Newcastle United and Middlesbrough share as much as we could in injuries, but this season we're seeing injuries left, right, and centre. Again, part of football, but when you constantly get injured, unfortunately, there's got to be some questions in physical, mentally, whatever it is, because it's just not good enough, I think, to be only doing 14 games in 2 seasons.
Lots of comments coming in. Lee says, for those who insist it wasn't a penalty, well, I've just got to say I'm certain it was a penalty because I'm sure that's how we got all 3 points. Up the borough, swings and roundabouts, as they say. Question from Connor Beddenfield. He says, by some miracle, if Borough do make the playoffs, I think we'll get embarrassed by who we play. It's been a terrible season with all the aspirations we had. Is it time for Carrick to go, right?
I still don't think it is. Not at the moment. We got to just stick with him. We got 3 games to see if we can make it. It'd be horrendous to change the flag now. But we saw, we got Sheffield Wednesday, which we saw Danny Rowe come out yesterday and call his players not up to his standard. I mean, when a manager comes out and says that, and then we play them on Monday night, you'd be licking your lips for 3 points there when Danny Rowe's saying his players aren't up to his standard for this league. I mean, look, there are some great managers out there. Michael Carrick's been the longest servant in the championship. Of course, questions are going to get asked. We're asking questions. Put aside a horrible, ugly win against Plymouth yesterday. It hasn't been the most, pretty of performances over the past 3. Is it time for Michael Carrick to go? In the summer, if we don't make playoffs, I think we do need to investigate what's happening in the injury front, his training methods, his tactical awareness. And the loss of Aaron Danks, how significant that was to his coaching staff tactically, because I think he's been found out a little bit this season. Again, when you have a new manager, it's very, very easy to bring in new style or new tactics that it takes all the other teams to get around and get used to. Regis is a classic example of that. No one's sort of figured out how Sunderland are playing until, maybe now they're kind of figuring out, but even then it's still this new dark horse of what the heck is this new manager that no one's really ever heard of has come in. And there's this new factor that comes in with that. We've seen all the teams around us in that top 7 or 8 replace managers once, if not twice, in the past 2 seasons that Michael Carrick's been in charge full season. It's a merry-go-round of managers, but we crave success. We need to be in those playoffs. We need to be pushing for promotion. We want to be that yo-yo club going in between the Premier League and the Championship. You know what I mean? So we'll take that, and we need a manager that can take us there. And is Michael Carrick the answer? Tough to say. We need metal. We need metal in that. We're a steel town, and at the moment, it's a bit too brittle for me.
Okay, question for both of you guys as we're still talking championship. 2 questions, actually, and I'll combine it with a JPEG that I managed to screenshot this week. Tom Dixon says, with 3 games left, who's going to win the championship? And Graham Morton, which is the second part of the question for you guys, is, are either of you really ready for the poisoned chalice that is promotion? And the picture I took was before yesterday's fixtures, and this was on the BBC Sport website. Look at how tight the championship is. that list of who could be promoted, going down to 11th and Watford, can be promoted or relegated. Swansea, Norwich and Sheffield, which takes you down to 14th, and can be relegated. QPR down to Plymouth, and who are bottom 15th down to 24th. The Premiership is tight this season. We've been talking about them being a top and a bottom, but no middle. It's starting to look like that now, very much so in the Championship as well. Things have definitely changed. But yeah, the two questions: who is going to win the Championship, do you think, Ted? And are you ready for the poison chalice that's promotion if you do get promoted? Because as laws of averages at the moment are, what goes up must come down, and it's usually the following season. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's all about consistency. Somebody else mentioned about consistency earlier on there, and I think Burnley probably have been the most consistent team in the league this season. And yeah, I think Burnley will win it. I can't see Leeds they're an absolute basket case of a club, really. I think that Sheffield United they'll go on a bit of a wobble. I don't think Sheffield United will get promoted. I just can't see it. I think if they end up in the playoffs, I think their heads will go completely. And I think Wilder will be the first one to let his head go as well. So I think Burnley to go up. In terms of the second part of the question, I watched the Newcastle game. I'm sure we're going to come to that anyway. I watched it during the week. I watched the game against Crystal Palace. And I was looking at that going, God, if we get promoted, I thought Crystal Palace could probably demolish us. You know what I mean? So when you see that, I would hate Derby Day right now. And I'm not blowing smoke up the Geordies' backsides or anything like that. It's just there's such a big gulf. I would always look forward to derbies of we were a lot of years, Steve, we were always the underdog. And I always fancied us on the back of that. Now it's just I don't think there's such a thing as an underdog as such. Now it's more just complete whipping boys, and I think we'd get demolished. So I really don't think I would enjoy Premier League football. I'd enjoy the 20 minutes after winning promotion. I'd love that. Yeah, I wouldn't be off social media, but as soon as the fixtures come out for the Premier League, forget it. I'm going into hiding.
Same question to you, Rai. For you, who do you think the top three is going to be for the end of this year? Who's going to get promoted? I mean, I've got to be honest. I agree with Ted. I think it's too much now for Sheffield United. That bad run of form in the last few weeks has cost them, despite them winning yesterday. It's between Leeds and Burnley for me. Who ends up top? I think. The other one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's going to be interesting. I think Leeds win it for me. Burnley versus Sheffield on Monday night is going to be a big telling factor to that. Burnley are obviously a very good team in form, but Leeds are just not bottling it like everyone expected them to be. And Leeds and Burnley deserve to go up this season. They have been the best of the rest in what's been an ugly championship, showing that table like you did before with how many teams can be promoted and relegated still. These teams have been performing at the top end, and they've got, such a significant gap that they both deserve it. I think Leeds win it for me, and Burnley comes second. As for the playoffs, I think it's just anyone's game still. It's so hard to tell. It's going to go down to the last day of the season for the Coventry, Bristol City spot. Obviously, Sunderland, Sheffield United, I would say, are obviously in there. But whoever those two are going to play is still up for grabs. I think. I mean, even Millwall, for goodness sake, can still make a late charge as well for in terms of points. So, yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. Momentum's going to be massive. Momentum's got to be massive going into the thing. West Brom's momentum is shocking. So we look at Sunderland's, that their momentum hasn't been the greatest. Coventry and Bristol still keep picking up points. Sheffield United's momentum, though, everyone's saying them, well, their momentum's shocking as well. They picked up a good win yesterday, but the game against Plymouth with Chris Wilder and the antics we saw after that was disgusting, and it was absolutely ugly. We even saw some of the biggest fan groups of Sheffield United condemning Chris Wilder as their coach and whether he's got the chance. Now, we saw Sheffield United as Newcastle fans will be very, very well aware going up to the Premier League last season and getting, was it 7-0 against Newcastle United? I mean, these are the teams that are blowing away other teams in the Championship. So Look, I think from 3 down, it's anyone's game. But for me, as you see it right there, Leeds United first, Burnley finishing second, Sheffield United and Sunderland where they were. And then from about 5th down to 8th, maybe even 9th, I think is still anyone's game. I think Blackburn have fallen away a bit too much. They're in a bit of world of hurt as well with their manager crisis. And they're looking at appointing Wayne Rooney. Can we get a lol in the chat for that one? Blackburn Rovers talking about appointing Wayne Rooney as well. So that's going to be absolutely, atrocious if he gets another job.
Please do it by Monday.
I know, right? But I think, as I said, Bristol City sort of in 5th, down to Millwall in 9th, can still make those playoffs.
Unbelievable. So Leeds could get promoted depending on the result between Burnley and Sheffield United. If Burnley win at the weekend, Monday, then beat Sheffield United, then Leeds United will be promoted. So interesting stuff. One more championship-related question, and it's from Newcastle fan Craig, who says, "What's Trafford like as a keeper? You guys have seen more of him. Is he Premier League class, Ted?"
I'm probably the worst person to ask. I don't like him at all. I really don't like him at all. I think that's partly down to the mind games, shall we say, time wasting that he did against Sunderland when we played Burnley. But there's no getting away from it. He's a very, very talented goalkeeper. He commands his box well. He's loud, which I think is important for a keeper. I like a keeper to be vocal and command his area and bat at the defenders, and he does all that for me. He's got time on his side. He's still a very young keeper. Keepers don't hit form now till their early 30s, to be formed. They're absolute peak. So, listen, I know there's rumours of him, Newcastle United, very much interested in him, and I think they could do a lot worse, to be honest. He was, he had 2 penalties that he saved against Sunderland, be honest. Yeah, that's exactly why I don't like him. But being objective, he's a very, very good goalkeeper. Probably the best there is in that division.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, Newcastle almost certainly going to sign Trafford in the summer by the sounds of it. Rye, what's your feelings on Trafford?
Trafford, did you mean to say Travers? Because Travers is the best keeper in the league by far. Trafford's a poor man, Travers. Travers, who is on loan from Bournemouth, is going to come to Middlesbrough in what's going to be one of the best goalkeeping signings of the century. Trafford is obviously a young, up-and-coming goalkeeper. He's got England potential written all over him as well. He's got the best clean sheets. I mean, we saw that historic run with JJ Watt. We don't know if anyone was following this along, but JJ Watt, who is an ex-NFL superstar, declared on social media that if Trafford can keep, I think it's something like a clean sheet till the end of the season, then he'll go back and play NFL coming out of retirement. Well, Trafford fell about 2 games short of that, of keeping a clean sheet. Look, he's had very, very good defense in front of him. Let's not, Egan Riley, is a fantastic defender, and Burnley's setup for defensively has been masterclass. Can you put him in a Newcastle side? You bloody oath you can. With Dan Burn in front of him, Kieran Trippier, the way he's been playing, and then you got the youngsters coming through on your wings as well. I think you've got a young up and coming keeper. Does he dislodge Pope though? And does Trafford want to come in and sit, second fiddle? Well, you're going to need a big squad if it looks like Champions League football's on your horizon, which it is. Then you're going to need a big squad, and you've seen Pope getting injured. So, can you see the rotation? But he's going to have to be happy, to be rotated. I think he's got England aspirations. Burnley will be very, 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 very eager to keep hold of him going into the Premier League as well. Let's not think about that as well. It's not going to be as easy pickings as Newcastle like. Burnley will be thinking that Trafford's going to be their number 1 keeper going to the Premier League if they're anything of staying up in the Premier League.
It does Pope stay at Newcastle, of course. Burnley back in the Premier League. Is there a potential deal for Pope to go the other way?
Exactly.
Or are Newcastle keen on keeping hold of Pope? Lots to be decided in the summer. Halfway through the show, though, and it's time to get the cat out. Now, I think everybody's seen Chat GPT pictures. I have been inundated this week with these. There's been so many. The lads have kept us occupied. We'll get the worst one out of the way.
Mickey Mouse Cup.
The horse.
Panda CD gets me.
That is superb.
It is good. This one was sent to us by Rye, terrible footballer, Kieran Scott edition, which is quite good. And of course, Newcastle fans can always have a go at Jordan Pickford. He's only got little arms. He's got no arm on one side there. The Tyrannosaurus Rex. Onana, of course, dropped for the game at Newcastle, back in for that amazing turnaround against Leon, against 10 men, we hasten to add. But Andre Onana, action figure, contact lenses and the guide dog, and 2 gloves with holes in, which is important. Gaza, we always wish him well, but it was obvious that somebody was going to create Gaza 1 with 2 fishing rods, 2 brown ales, and a Tesco bag.
Morty sauce.
I love the fact that they've got G-Star Road top on as well, which, attention to detail. Yes. Anyhow, of course, still in hospital. So Mad Dog was the feature of one of these Toontown toys. I like it. Mad Dog, fake tan, always ready, always tanned. He did say he's not going to wear the Wham top today. And this one, a VAR action figure of a referee. Fantastic. Glasses, a stick, and a dog, guide dog as well, which I think most of us can accept is probably what most of these VAR officials look like. I did mention Eddie Howe earlier. He's having a little bit of recuperation after a bout of pneumonia. The photos that have been coming out of the hospital have been very, very enlightening. You can tell that's official because it's a Sky Sports picture. Yeah, exactly. I did like this one as well. Another one. You see, Sunderland didn't have one of those action figures this week, so we've had to double up on.
We did. I'll have to send it through.
You'll have to send it through. There's a later season Riot walking a seagull. You expect us to make mistakes on here, but you don't expect professional TV companies to make a mistake, do you? Michael Carrick, head coach, Newcastle United on BBC North this week. Fantastic. No thanks.
He wishes.
We'll stick with Eddie. Domino's Pizza had a good tweet this week. Things we love to see. Getting cooked. Pizza and Man United. That was, of course, after Newcastle's game. And Wayne Rooney got a mention by Rye there earlier, looking for another job, this time at Blackburn. Wayne Rooney's in negotiations to become a pundit on Match of the Day. Will had tweeted, "You'll get them relegated to BBC Two."
Can't believe it.
Which is true. Good luck to Prince William explaining to school why young George wasn't present during turn time.
He loves it, mine, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. And Sunday League, lads, back in the good old days. Ted, you remember this. Packet of tabs in a lighter down the back of your sock.
Henson and Hedges as well, I tell you what. He's got taste.
None of this menthol rubbish.
No.
Yeah, take your dog to the match. Why not? But in case it kicks off at the Mets. And this is a great photo as well. Man United wags from their last league title win. Reunite. Great to see them getting together. Onana, we mentioned it earlier. This is brilliant. The Inter-Chairman, Mr. Giuseppe Marotta, on the transfer says, when we heard Man United were interested in Andre Onana, we were hoping to get 14 million as Andre had a good season. We made the Champions League final. 2 days later, we received an official faxed bid of 21 million with add-ons from Manchester United. The rumour erupted into laughter. I told my assistant to fax back asking for 51 million with add-ons. I was joking, really. Next morning, a new bid worth 51 million. The week after, we made a bid for Jan Sommer for 5 million, which was accepted immediately, and we made a £46 million profit at Andre's sale. I ordered my assistant to a bottle of champagne. It felt like we'd won the lottery.
Oh my God.
That's brilliant.
Incredible.
That is brilliant,
Absolutely
isn't it?
incredible.
I love it when there's a bit of honesty comes from Chairman. Specsavers, Man United fans, if you bring your glasses to any of our stores, we'll swap them for a blindfold so you don't have to watch them anymore. And the top two for me this week, one of them was slightly late last week, so it really applies to last week, but it wasn't this one. A group of death, literally. Syria, Myanmar, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And
Right, getting flashbacks here.
And the winner this week was this one. I love a Muppets reference, lads. Borussia Dortmund's defense against Barca. If you've got any tweets, send them to me at Steve Wraith or at Ted the Mackham or at Inrictus on X. We'll pick them up and we will show them next week so we can get the cat out. Craig Lee on Eddie Howe says, I think Howe in hospital means no team talk needed. The lads won't want to let him down, so he tries to rush back, which is bad news for the opposition. And yes, those tweets have been forwarded to Melly. I went on his podcast last weekend. He went on mine. We've seen him. I've got to be honest, though, and I'll admit it on here as well, lads. 4-4-2, when it was 4-2, sorry, I switched the TV off against Lyon on Thursday night. I text Melly the words, Europe's not for everybody, and sat back and smoked a cigar. 20 minutes later, my phone was ringing. I was getting voice messages. I jumped the gun. Yes, I jumped the gun, lads. Unbelievable when it happens. I mean, and like I said to Melly, I was pleased for Melly, but I just can't stand Man United. I just hope they get well and truly schooled in the semi-finals. I really do.
I've got a question for you, Steve, just on that subject. I've been meaning to ask this for ages. So I've picked up a strong disliking for Manchester United from you over the time we've been doing these shows. Would you rather beat Sunderland once in a derby or beat Manchester United every game you play for 2 seasons? You can only pick one.
It's got to be beat Sunderland because it is the real rivalry. Man United's a plastic rivalry, really, and it only stems from the 1990s.
Yeah.
And as Craig Lee says, it's not even a big deal to beat Manchester United now. We've beaten them 5 out of the last 6 times. We've now just done the double over them for the first time since the 1930s.
Yeah.
And for me, I think last weekend was probably the most comprehensive performance against Manchester United for many, many years. They were terrible. Newcastle were great. And it's great. I wasn't worried. I was the guy I sit next to at the matches is very worried every time Newcastle concede a goal. He's still living in that kind of Mike Ashley era. And he panics, and until we're 2 or 3 up, he can't relax. I was the polar opposite. Man United equalised. Good goal. Garnacho, great finish. But Newcastle just looked too good at the moment. And they hit that. You thought they hit the peak in the cup final, and you didn't know what was going to happen afterwards. Well, it's remarkable. Since the cup final, we've scored 1, then we scored 2, then we scored 3, then we scored 4, and midweek against Crystal Palace we scored 5. And people going, I might have a daft bet on Newcastle scoring 6 against Villa. Never write anything off with Newcastle. Villa's a good team. You've got to have respect for the opposition, but you just can't write anything off with this team at the minute. Everybody expected us to get beaten in the final, and we've just never looked back since then. There's a real determination amongst this squad to achieve now. And it is that old adage of getting the monkey off your back and winning a trophy. Once you win the first one, the rest follow. And at the moment, things are going really well. Players who you would expect to be a shoe-in into the starting 11 can't get in. Anthony Gordon's fit, been a substitute now for the last couple of games. Sven Botman's going to be back next weekend. He won't walk straight back into the team. And that's what you want, I think
Harvey Barnes.
Yeah. And I mean, Harvey Barnes has been wonderful.
Can't even start.
Yeah, it's an amazing situation as a football fan to be in. I've never felt as confident since the 1990s when Keegan was manager. And literally you go into every game expecting to get something. The difference between this team and Kevin Keegan's team is that they know how to defend, and they defend from the front. And what will disrupt it, of course, is if there's an injury or a suspension, one of those guys in the midfield. Suspensions now, of course, with bookings have been done and dusted for this year. But a red card, of course, could see somebody out, and that's, or a bad injury, and you don't want that. But yeah, we currently have, at this moment in time, the best midfield in the Premier League. Joe Linton, Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes are now being backed up by 2 orthodox wingers, two wingers who, at the moment, everything they touch turns to gold, and both score goals. So it's quite a remarkable scenario. And people saying, well, if the penalty got in, it would have been it could have been a different game. Well, yeah, it could have and would have. You know, it's for me, it's an amazing thing to watch, and you just got to enjoy these moments as a football fan. You've just literally got to sit back. Villa, yep, tough game. We've got tough games in the running. We've got 6 games left. We've got Villa away, Brighton away, Chelsea at home, Arsenal. But it's not an easy fixture list. But at the moment, the way you're playing, you would take Newcastle to get something out of each of those games and every one of those games.
Can I ask you quickly, do you think Kieran Trippier has done enough to stay in the summer now after all the talk of him leaving on a free almost and all this sort of, whether he was going to be in Newcastle United? I mean, in the summer, I must admit, I thought he was gone. I thought it was open doors, if not January as well. For me, he looks like he's completely and utterly rebuilt the confidence in him and in his own game. Yeah,
I genuinely think with Kieran Trippier that the personal situation he found himself in with his relationship, and I think it's been much publicized. We don't know all the facts, and it's not our place to know all the facts, but there's been enough social media speculation and rumor, etc., about things that have gone on, and I think that was affecting him massively. And of course it's going to, especially with family, etc. But for me, Kieran Trippier at the moment is now rolling back the years, is the phrase. He's, there was a couple of times, against Crystal Palace in particular, where Sandro Tonali is playing a crossfield ball of about 40 yards. And Kieran Trippier is not taking it on his instep and getting some kind of control. He's hitting it on the volley first time, and we're creating chances from it. It's sublime football at the minute. That's what it is. It's dreamland for Newcastle fans, and Kieran Trippier has definitely done enough to get some kind of contract extension if he wants to stay. The summer's going to be an interesting summer from our perspective. It really is. Who stays, who goes. The Champions League qualification, if we get it, which we should, is going to determine whether Newcastle let certain players stay or go, because you have to have 8 homegrown players within your squad for the Champions League. So that's going to be important. But yeah, there's lots of big decisions to make. You would say that there's probably 2 or 3 players who you would expect to go. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we can all speculate. You could say Longstaff, Wilson, you don't expect them to get new contracts, but who knows? And who knows what Eddie and Paul Mitchell are planning. We've already started, by the looks of it, with Fabrizio Romano reporting this week that we've already started looking at recruiting, and we've got a young Spanish midfielder, left winger, I think he is, Madero, coming in from Malaga. Newcastle already looking to increase.
Sorry, that means something else where I live.
Is it? Yeah, for us, it really is an interesting time to be a Newcastle fan.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be a massive game against Aston Villa. I'm really looking forward to this. Aston Villa have been insane. I mean, they have just literally, under Unai Emery, it's just been a completely team possessed, hasn't it? And with Morgan Rogers, obviously, the Middlesbrough superstar, I'm going to call him. I mean, adding Marcus Rashford and Marcus Asensio as well was insane. A bit of January business, and they seem to have turned their fortunes around. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see where both teams are at, because I think Aston Villa and Newcastle in next season or the season after, Liverpool aren't that far ahead in terms of strength. Arsenal, we know, Arsenal aren't that far ahead either of the likes of Villa and Newcastle pushing for the 1 and 2 spots over the next couple of seasons. So this could be a battle of what the future of the Premier League looks like for me today. It's going to be a very, very interesting game to see. With such goal flow from Newcastle against Aston Villa, with Martinez in goal and stuff like that, how it's going to think. It could be a bore, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very interesting watch for me. I mean, Kieran Trippier, it's amazing what Eddie Howe and Newcastle United have been able to do, getting so much out of players that are seemingly too old in terms of for football. We've seen Dan Burn make his England appearance at his age this season. Kieran Trippier, who we thought in the sum, if we had asked this on our old gig, end of last season, mate, you would have sold Kieran Trippier in a heartbeat. Do you know what I mean? You would have walked him out of the club, but now he's just a man possessed. I mean, the likes of Shah, I mean, these players seem to be getting better with age, like fine wines at Newcastle United, instead of going through the youth department where we've seen with other teams working, such as Sunderland, who are working well with teams of 19, 18-year-olds. Well, Newcastle are doing it with 30-year-olds, and maybe that's it's a bit of a secret sauce. The question I've got for Newcastle over the next couple of seasons is, one, obviously their depth. We saw it with Champions League, that group of depth that you had. If you get Champions League again, you've got to improve your squad depth, because the injuries can come to you real quick. Even Dan Burn on that podcast, I always think back to that Stevie boy, when Dan Burns said how he was just amazed how much football you have to play when you're in the Champions League and how quick the turnaround is. You're going to have to obviously look at, a backup for Isak. If there's anything that happens to Isak, you're going to have a striker that can come in. Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, not getting any younger. We've spoken about your goalkeeping department. So it's just the age factor for me. And it's no disrespect to them. We're all older than them. But in football, when you start getting into those, those 32, 33s, that's when your body starts letting you down, unfortunately. And when you've got so much football to play for next season, if Newcastle United have got Champions League and everything like we saw the past couple of seasons, it's that age factor for me. And I think they are investing in youth. I think you'll see a big summer of a bit of a youth push for me, though. I think they'll be looking for your next Dan Burns, your next Fabian Schär's, your next, and a backup for Isak. That's for me. You can see with Harvey Barnes on the wing and how good that's been. I mean, that's all sorted. Your midfield as well, if you're obviously keeping Bruno, keeping Tonali, is essential, obviously. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, especially with Champions League football. I can't see why they'd want to go to any other team when they've got Champions League football right at their doorstep with Newcastle, and they've seen what it's like. When St. James's Park hosted AC Milan, that was just insane with the flag display and stuff like that. But for me, it's looking at that next lot that can step up and do a role, if heaven forbid next season, which we saw last season, and I'm just going off history, is injury repeating itself when you've got to play so much football with every competition at stake with Champions League football. And that, unfortunately, was the undoing of Newcastle last season, was the injury run. And I think next season, they're all 2 years older from then, the squad depth is going to have to be looked at. And I think it's going to have to be youth rather than seniors.
I agree with Rye there, Steve. I think like having the likes of Trippier, to use him as an example here, I think it's so important for Newcastle United to hold on to him for at least another season in a playing capacity. And actually, probably use him for FA Cup games, use him for League Cup games. And those games where you expect to get 6 points a season, if Middlesbrough get promoted, for instance, the lesser teams. But I think it's important that the Trippier is retained from a coaching perspective as well, Steve, because when I see Trippier on the pitch, and I know we've had banter about Trips and all that sort of thing, where he's whatever he does in his personal life is his own, but as a player, first-rate professional, and I like the way he communicates with the other defenders around him. He seems to be an organizer, and I think from a coaching perspective, that's really important to have that, especially if they do start and look at younger players coming through. You need those older heads around you to be able to bring them through. And all right, he might not get as much game time, but I think he's an integral part of what Newcastle United are doing right now, and important to keep him for at least another season, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think as well, when you look at Kieran Trippier and the way that he organises, as you say, I think he could potentially be a coach. He could be somebody who goes on to be a good manager as well, moving forward, and that worth keeping him on just for his experience, etc. But it's amazing. And Geordie Tubalite makes a good point. If Villa don't get Champions League, they're in danger of going bang with the 97% on wages against turnover. It is madness. A couple of questions as well I saw in there. Yeah, David, no, I haven't heard anything about this Mark Gahey incident. But again, if it's a social media rumour, then I would probably edge clear of it. 2 or 3 quality more in at the academies. The Champions League is all well and good, but domestic should be the priority. And Chris is going back to Borough there. He says, there's been another major injury in the Borough training camp. What is going on at Borough training ground? How can players keep getting injured in training sessions? You know what Newcastle did? And Jason Tyndall paid tribute to the guys yesterday in the press conference. Newcastle have improved massively behind the scenes with the injury situation. I know we haven't had Europe this year, which is what you were getting at, right? But we brought in Steve Bunce, who's been a massive difference for us this year. Everything from soft tissue injuries to people's recovery, dietitian, nutrition, all of these people he paid tribute to yesterday. And that's very important, and I think Newcastle have got it right. We all thought it was going to upset Eddie a little bit, these people coming in. It's been the polar opposite. These people have come in and they've helped the situation. And I think that's what maybe, the other teams could learn from, Ryan. And that's obviously disappointing for Middlesbrough. Again, more injuries.
Yeah, no, it is disappointing, and obviously we looked at it as well in the summer. It was funny that Newcastle and Middlesbrough's time came at the same time to look into the fitness department, and we made some big changes. We brought back a couple of fitness experts, one from Tottenham Hotspur who had left a couple of seasons ago, but we also brought in Graham Carrick, obviously from Newcastle United, and that's obviously Michael Carrick's brother, but it was around his fitness and his understanding of how to play so much football and all that we were sort of trying to lean on. But unfortunately, it's happened again. We've had so many injuries from the training ground, and I think one thing that frustrates us when it comes to the injury front is Michael Carrick I'm not sure how Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall handle it, but Michael Carrick doesn't let anyone know. He doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't say, and there's always the question at the start of the press conferences, has there been any squad updates? All the reporters ask it, and he just says, nope, squad's the same. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, we rock up and we're missing Riley McGree and we're missing George Edmondson. And then it's like, oh yeah, he's injured. And it's that sort of frustration that I get, that there is sort of a tactical side to it where you're not trying to let the teams know that this guy's missing and this guy's missing. I can understand that. But at some point, you've just got to be open and honest with the fans, because there's good paying fans expecting to rock up and see a Riley McGree or George Edmondson or whatever it may be, and they're just not there. So, and the frustrating thing as well is that it's not out of the games; it's in the training paddock. And then you ask questions of what's happening at training. Is it too intense? Are they doing too much? Is there too much physicality towards the end of the season? Do you know what I mean? We've spoken about this time and time again, how much running is in modern day football and how many kilometers these boys are traveling and how fit they have to be to rock up, especially in the championship when it's, we played yesterday, we're going to play Monday. Do you know what I mean? So you need a deep squad to do that. And in the championship, unfortunately, we haven't got the money to have a good deep squad to go and rely on. Well, you've got to rotate your youngsters and all that through there as well. And then training's got to be, handled light on, whether they're doing too much or not. It's ridiculous to rock up to a game on Saturday expecting to have a fully fit squad, and all of a sudden you've had 2 or 3 boys that have been injured at training, somewhere where you feel to be safe and that you can, And I took it as well, and I put this to Michael Carrick and the crew a couple of weeks ago. If someone has got a niggle, if I look at someone on the weekend, Aidan Morris yesterday got absolutely battered. He was kicked around the shins more times than I've ever seen a footballer kicked around the shins. I mean, the bloke was on the ground half the session. Today, I'd be going, right, Aidan, you're on the ice bath. Do you know what I mean? And we got to have these analysis and these GPS trackers and all that sort of stuff that the Premier League use in the championship level to minimise these injuries, because they're costing clubs so much. And we really do need to look into it from a nutrition point of view, fitness point of view, all of it. We really do need to put some more money into it, especially at Middlesbrough. And if Newcastle can do it, and they've fixed it, going into Champions League next season, like I said, is going to be a completely different beast for Newcastle United. Obviously, you probably won't get that Champions League group of death either. You would hope, touch wood, but I think
different format.
Oh, it's different format as well. There you go. So, I mean, look, it's got to be a massive factor in modern day football. You have to take care of it. Riley McGree, like I said at the top of the show, 14 games in 2 seasons as a professional footballer. It just can't happen. It can't. When the team's so reliant on your good players. Can you imagine starting off Newcastle's season, a couple of games in, and you would have lost. You lost Sandro Tonali, Bruno, and Isak for injuries. Well, that's Newcastle's season gone. Do you know what I mean? The key factor to Newcastle's success this season has been keeping Isak on the pitch. I mean, Callum, he hasn't had to do anything. It's just been Isak up front constantly, 90 minutes, game after game after game, keeping Sandro Tonali and Bruno on that pitch for 90 minutes, game after game after game. That is the secret sauce. That is the secret to success, being able to play your strongest 11 week in, week out. And if Newcastle have unlocked that, then every other team should be looking into how they've done it.
Yeah, it's definitely a case. I mean, we've game managed him. He's come off, 70 minutes. So he's, we've had a period where Isak was out, but a lot less time on the sidelines for Isak. So you're right, yeah, trying to keep those places. But going into the cup final, we lost Anthony Gordon through suspension. We lost Lewis Hall for the rest of the season through injury. Our left side was decimated. Credit to Eddie Howe and the lads, because what they did was they suddenly changed it. Livramento suddenly is a left back now, doesn't look out of place there because he can play both sides. And fair play to Harvey Barnes, who could have gone in the huff, not getting a game. People talking about him being sold for PSR. He's come in and he's took his chance, and that's what you want. That's what you want. We'll have nearly reached the end of the show. I just want to ask this question because it's quite good and we can all give an answer to it. Davey T says, I get everyone knows before the season how the playoffs work, especially this season. The third place team will be streaks ahead of the sixth. Thoughts on how it may be fairer? I've never liked it, Davey, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that Sunderland, beat us in that very first playoff. Newcastle were miles ahead in third place. But the rules are the rules. They're set out at the start of the season. You've just got to accept them. There's no sour grapes for me on that. But I agree. I don't like the playoffs. It's a moneymaker. It's an earner. I've two things I hate really in football at that level and in the FA Cup is playing at Wembley when you shouldn't be playing at Wembley. Wembley was always a sacred place. You only got to Wembley if you got to a cup final, and that's the way it should be. 100%. So for me, I hate the playoffs. I think the top three should go up and the bottom three should go down. I'd scrap the playoffs. I think it's ridiculous. Although I'd still I still enjoy that last game of the season. The £1 million, the £1 million game or the £2 million game, whatever you want to call it. Because you're going to go into the league. But I just hate them, mate. It could be fairer by scrapping it, Davey. That's my answer. Ted.
I mean, I've been on both sides of that. Obviously, remember beating Newcastle in the semis when I think we finished 5th or 6th, something like that season. But on the flip side of that, the probably the greatest playoff game there's ever been at Wembley, which was the Charlton Sunderland one. We finished comfortably in third that season, quite well ahead of everybody else. Charlton finished in 4th or 5th, and listen, it swings and roundabouts, but it makes for a little bit more drama. I know Sky are eking it out and they get money off it, and the league are getting richer off it as well, and so is Wembley, which is a business more than it is a venue now. Let's be honest about it. But I kind of like them. I like the drama of the playoffs, even though I absolutely feel physically sick at the time. I'm in favour of keeping them for now until there comes a time where there's a better idea.
All right.
Yeah, look, I think I completely agree with Ted. I think it's. I don't know if there's a different way you can look at it. I mean, some people have spoken about a grand final and stuff like this. I mean, the way the A-League works here in Australia is we have a grand final. You go into a finals fixture. I think, it's like first and second get 2 chances, even if they lose, sort of thing, to make it into the grand final. It's a weird format, but look, I think it's like I said to Ted, and I keep bringing up momentum and all that is massive going to these games, because then you only have 180 minutes of football to prove yourself. Do you know what I mean? In a home game and away game, and you could get an away game to start off with. It's luck of the draw, and you could be absolutely abolished. Do you know what I mean? Imagine, you go to Sheffield United away in the first game and you lose 3-0. Well, it's a hell of a mountain to come back and climb, and you're meant to have some sort of advantage there. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So there's got to be some sort of fairer system, and I'm not sure what that is, but I think at the moment we need to sort of we need to sort of it's something I don't think it will change, and I don't something we'll look at. I think the advertisement and the money in it is great for everyone, selling out Wembley in the richest game of football and stuff like that. But I think over 180 minutes, your season and what Sunderland have achieved this season could go out the window in 180 minutes is not, it's not fair, because it doesn't, encapsulate all the success you've had in that season. There's no bonuses for as long as you finish 5th, 6th, or 4th, you've got a chance, and that's crazy to me. There's got to be some more benefits for finishing 3rd or 4th and so on.
Okay, been a great show. We just need a prediction from everybody for the game tonight. 5:30 kick-off at Villa Park, Newcastle United travelling down there. And I have predicted already on NUFC Matters this week a 3-2 win for Newcastle. I think it could be a big barnstorming game, a very open game. But I'm going to go for an Alexander Isak hat-trick tonight and a 3-2 win. Ted?
Me, okay, yeah. Well, I got your last two right in terms of both wins. I also said 7 points at your next three games. This is the third game of them. I've got to back myself, and I've got to say a draw. So I'm going to go for 2s apiece. Desmond 2-2.
2-2. Okay, more goals. Rye, what are you thinking? The dice on the Three Amigos last night, the Mitch rolls the dice. It went 0-0.
Oh, 0-0. Look, it's insane. The stats on this one is incredible. It's making up for such a good game. Villa have lost 5 of their last 6 Premier League games against Newcastle, as many of them had in their previous 16 against the Magpies in the division. Newcastle have won their last 3 Premier League games against Villa, scoring at least 3 goals each time. So, I mean, it's got a good, juicy affair written all over it. But, Villa have also won each of their last 4 Premier League matches as well. So, conceding just 1 goal. So, look, I'm just going to sit on the fence and say 3-3. Goals for goals galore. Go and open your nets. Don't even worry about playing a goalkeeper today. Just see who can outscore each other. Why don't we do that? That could be fun. But no goalkeepers. Just go hell for leather. No, interesting game. Insane to watch. I'm definitely going to watch it. I think it's going to be 3-3.
Great stuff. Thank you to everybody watching. 285 watching live across all the platforms. Thank you very much for that. We never take it for granted. Look forward to seeing you all next weekend. Take care, guys.
See you, lads.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat. It's a promise.